Hey guys, it's Rob, wrestling aficionado, guru of all things metal, and armchair booking extraordinaire. Back once again to talk a little WWE with you, because right now is a very, very, very exciting time in the WWE. The brand split is back. And with the brand split comes the draft. In just a little under a month, we are finally going to see the return of the draft, and I am so glad they brought this back because this is always one of my favorite, if not my favorite thing about wrestling. I always look forward to it within the WWE specifically every single year, and only maybe the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania got me as just pumped up as the draft Raw did. Even when it got stupid and they were just randomized picks, and John Cena was going to SmackDown at the beginning of the show and then back to Raw at the end of the show, just a cheap shot at The Miz. It's still fantastic after all this time to hear it's coming back. SmackDown is going live on Tuesdays. There's going to be specific rosters, unique rosters for each show. Raw hopefully will be a lot less stale now. Hopefully they'll cut it back down to 2 hours, unless they plan on doing the third hour with something special. I've heard rumors of the women's wrestling only being on one show, perhaps making it the third hour of Raw, making it a ladies' hour. I'm not in favor of that idea personally because I believe women's wrestling is every bit as important as male wrestling and should be featured prominently on both shows, not just one. But they're going to do what they're going to do regardless. But it is very nice that they do seem to be listening to the fans now, and instead of SmackDown being a throwaway Raw recap show, it will be its own unique brand with its own unique content presented to us each and every week. It is fantastic. So everybody's out throwing around mock drafts. I thought I'd get mine in here. A lot of people are using the format that was presented to us in the later drafts with the randomized selection on the Titantron. I don't feel it's going to be anything like that. If it was, I'd be very, very disappointed. I fully expect this draft to be very similar to the very first draft between Vince McMahon and Ric Flair. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my list a little bit here. And GM of Raw, I have Stephanie McMahon. Purely because Stephanie is the daughter of Vince, the direct heir. She represents the way things have been done over the past number of years in WWE. Just the same. And it seems more fitting to have her on the flagship show, on the show that's always just been the way it is. Rather than Shane, who is going to be on SmackDown, which SmackDown's entirely changing. SmackDown's going live. It seems more fitting to have this catalyst of change, this person who wants to bring about change in the WWE, on the show that is completely about change now. Now, I feel the show should start. Stephanie will come out, just talk and boast, say, as I'm the real heir to the McMahon, legacy. It's only fitting that I run the flagship show because Raw is always the A show. I'm the only person with a business vision to run Raw, whereas my brother does not. And we will give him the B show because I don't care if the B show fails. And with the first pick, she's going to say, because this is the biggest show, we take the biggest stars and the biggest prizes. My first pick is the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Roman Reigns. Yes, I do think Roman's going to retain at Money in the Bank, but I'm hoping it's some sort of controversial finish. They have to do something that sets up either a splitting of the title or a reason for Roman to show up on SmackDown, because SmackDown does still need a top title. I hope they're not going to do like the SmackDown Championship, like Teddy Long did before Batista was drafted over with World Heavyweight Championship. I do think it's going to be split into the WWE and World Heavyweight Championships again, meaning there will have to be some sort of controversial finish to the end of Money in the Bank. But anyways, first pick, Roman Reigns. Out comes Shane to make his first pick. He says, well, you took the top dog, the guy who's the face right now. But if I'm building a show around the star, I want the man who has had this company on his back for the past decade. The man who is the face who runs the place. My first choice is John Cena. Very predictable first two picks. Everybody has Roman going to one show and Cena going to the other. Roman, because he's the new guy, it only seems fitting to have him on the flagship show, whereas John Cena has enough star power still to be able to carry the SmackDown brand. Second round comes, and Stephanie comes out. She says, I'm going to pick the best talent now. And the best talent has always been our chosen one, Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins goes second to SmackDown. I mean, to Raw. SmackDown gets AJ Styles. Moving on to the third round, we start looking towards the future a little bit. Whereas Reigns, Cena, Rollins, AJ Styles are all your ready-made, ready-to-go stars right now who are going to be carrying the brand. We look a little bit towards guys who are going to be able to carry it into the future and for the next decade and a half. 3, Raw takes Kevin Owens off the board. And SmackDown will come out to directly counter that. They will take Sami Zayn. I do feel like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will be on different brands. I feel that will be a very important thing to them because Owens versus Zayn is something that's very, very special. They're both people who are workhorses. They're both people who can carry the colors of their brand for a long time. I imagine they're going to try to keep them as separated as possible so they can build up, Owens versus Zayn at a thing like Mania or at a really big event or at a SummerSlam or something, to where it's really, really special when they do it. Kind of like how Punk wanted to be with Daniel Bryan. He always wanted to be very, very separate, so whenever they came together, it was big. So I do imagine they're going to try to keep them apart as much as possible, similar to how they seem to try to keep Kane and The Undertaker apart. Number 4, Raw, looking again for star power stuck in the old era, will take Randy Orton. Returning Randy Orton, it should get a decent pop from the crowd just because Orton's been gone a while. I don't imagine he's going to be working completely full-time anymore. His schedule is going to be pretty light, but I do see Raw taking Randy Orton with the 4th pick. SmackDown comes out and takes Dean Ambrose because I do not see all 3 members of the Shield being on one show. Also, I'm hoping Dean Ambrose wins Money in the Bank. To me, it's just what makes logical sense. Building off of, again, the whole Shield thing, building the angle between him, Reigns, and Rollins, it just makes sense for him to be Mr. Money in the Bank. Also, him being able to cash in on Roman Reigns on Raw allows the title to be brought to SmackDown, which will spur the bouncing between shows thing, where the title will likely just become a mainstay on both shows. Because it will still be the top prize. Guys on SmackDown do still need something to work for, and a mid-card title, as hard as you build it, it will never be a world championship. So I feel Dean Ambrose takes the Money in the Bank case to SmackDown, eventually cashes in, bringing the title over for the first time. Speaking of titles, number 5, Raw comes out and takes Rusev. Stephanie will come out and boast as she picks the United States champion, saying, at this rate, SmackDown's not going to have any titles whatsoever. Sensing this and needing to directly counter it, Shane comes out and immediately takes The Miz. Probably higher than he'd want to take him, probably higher than he would ideally go in the draft, but he is still carrying the Intercontinental Championship. He's not defending it at Money in the Bank, which I detest, but he's not defending it at Money in the Bank. He will have the title come, the draft unless something ridiculous happens. The Miz brings the Intercontinental Championship to SmackDown. So Raw gets the US title, SmackDown gets the IC title. Lately, the United States Championships just felt a little bit more like a Raw title, especially through John Cena's reign and everything. It became such a mainstay on that show that I don't see them taking it over to SmackDown now. Whereas the Intercontinental Championship, it doesn't seem to be as important on that show. It's more featured on SmackDown. Number 6, Stephanie will come out and gloat as she takes one of Shane's boys. One of the guys, Shane McMahon's given credit, at least, on screen, for bringing up. She will pick Apollo Crews, another guy looking towards the future of the brand, especially with this brand split. Hopefully he will be better utilized than he has been. It'll allow for him to get a nice push at a mid-card title. Apollo Crews versus Rusev, to me, would be a fantastic feud over the United States title. And to directly counter that, SmackDown will take Baron Corbin with their 6th pick. Now, number 7, Raw comes out and takes Bubba Ray Dudley. Now, a lot of people in their mock drafts have teams going all at the same time. And in the very first draft, teams didn't go together, except for in the case of the NWO for some reason. Teams were split up. And Stephanie McMahon did say on Raw that teams will be split up during the draft. Now, I know they kind of don't really stick to what they say on the show. A lot of times the booking's wishy-washy. But I do feel they'll stick to this as they will need a way to split up a couple of the existing teams right now and throw together new ones to liven up the shows. It's been talked about since right after they came back that Bubba Ray would end up turning heel, strike out on his own, and revive his Bully Ray character from TNA within WWE. This, to me, gives him the best opportunity to do that without having to turn on Devon or something somehow. SmackDown then will take Cesaro, because Cesaro, again, is a big kind of Shane McMahon guy. Number 8, Raw takes Luke Gallows, starting to build the tag team division a little bit. In that same spot, same sort of thinking, SmackDown will take Big Cass. 9, Raw will just finish that team and pick up Carl Anderson. SmackDown picks up Enzo Amore. Number 10, Raw gets their resident demon back, and they'll take Kane. Stephanie McMahon, she can still talk him up, even though it seems Kane has kind of lost his value to the company a little bit. She'll hype it and make it a big deal by taking the demon. SmackDown takes Devon Dudley, officially splitting up the Dudleys. Now, I don't know what kind of singles run Devon's gonna have post the Dudleys breakup. But I do think he could run for the IC title over on SmackDown. It just all depends on how they book him, what they throw to him. But really, this is just more a thing to allow Bully Ray to become a character within WWE. Number 11, Raw goes for the big shocker, goes from one demon to another, and takes NXT's Finn Balor. This will be big. It's been hinted at and teased and teased and teased. Balor's debut on the main roster for a while now. I believe this is the perfect way to do it. Bring him up in the draft. and then with AJ Styles going to SmackDown, but Anderson and Gallows going to Raw, you can put together Balor with Anderson and Gallows on Raw, make them the Bulletproof Balor Club, build them together, make them really big. That could lead to something at a bigger show like a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, or even Survivor Series, really, where AJ Styles feels forgotten about, feels like his club's been stolen from him. I do feel we will see a lot more of the members of Bullet Club in WWE come here very soon. By November, I very much so would not be surprised to see the Bullet Club's Young Bucks in there, as well as Kenny Omega. I feel they could tag with AJ Styles against Finn Balor, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and one other person they'll add to the Bullet Club. I feel they'll take somebody who wasn't originally in the Bullet Club and add them to him, unless they go after like Okada or somebody. Now, SmackDown, to counter the Finn Balor pick, will dip to NXT themselves and take Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, I know a lot of people in all their mock drafts, it seems every mock draft out there, have Balor and Nakamura going at the same time to opposite brands. I do believe they'll do that, as Balor and Nakamura are going to be opposite poles. Much like Zayn Owens, much like Kane the Undertaker, much like Bryan and Punk. They're just going to be the two polarizing guys. They're the equivalents of each other on each respective brand. I feel it'd be too much to have them both on one show, whereas they could do so much better for each show. Number 12, Raw takes the veteran Chris Jericho. SmackDown goes ahead and takes the first woman off the board and takes Sasha Banks. Number 13, Raw goes ahead and takes Alberto Del Rio. And at this pick, SmackDown goes for a surprise and takes Tajiri. Many veterans apparently or reportedly have been reached out to for this draft. They're looking to beef up the rosters a little bit, and Tajiri has already been added to the Global Cruiserweight Classic. I feel if Tajiri has a very strong showing at the Classic, he may be signed again, at least on like a part-time deal, to come in and try to strengthen the roster a little bit, maybe revive the Cruiserweight division. But here, SmackDown takes Tajiri. Also, you compare him with Shinsuke Nakamura. You can do all sorts of things with Tajiri. Tajiri versus Shinsuke Nakamura sounds fantastic to me. Number 14, Raw goes ahead and takes the women's champion Charlotte. They say basically, okay, if you're going to take Sasha Banks, we're going to take the champ. SmackDown will counter by taking Becky Lynch, starting to build their women's division a bit. 15, Raw goes for a big shocker and takes Austin Aries from NXT. He's not really doing much down on NXT. He's a hell of a talent just to languish. It doesn't seem they know what to do with him exactly. So I could see him coming up to Raw very easily. He'd be very strong in the mid card, even to the main event. And for SmackDown continues to bolster their women's division by taking NXT's Bayley. That will be a big pick, something that'll get a big pop, as Bayley will get called up through the draft. She's also a name that's been rumored very heavily to get called up through the draft. It will give their women's division a strong face to pretty much carry their side of the division. Of course, you got Sasha Banks there too, but Bayley is kind of like the female John Cena with better in-ring ability. She's got that connection with the crowd. She's got the merch sales. She'll really carry the banner over there on SmackDown. 16, Raw will take Paige, again bolstering their women's division. Again, another bigger star going to Raw to basically just to keep them away from SmackDown, to keep SmackDown from building just way too strong women's division. Then SmackDown goes and takes Kalisto, the former U.S. champion. I feel if they're going to do anything with Kalisto, now would be the time, because they had the U.S. title on him for quite a while. He didn't do anything with it because he was still stuck in the Lucha Dragons. They liked keeping the Lucha Dragons together. Sin Cara didn't really have anything to do outside of the Lucha Dragons, so they kept them together. They paired them, and I feel that really, really, really hurt Kalisto as a single star, because really he was doing nothing with the U.S. title. He was in tag matches all the time. He wasn't defending. He wasn't in singles matches, and that's why they had to just quickly drop the title to Rusev. But I feel if they're going to do something with him, now would be the time. Stephanie would be coming out looking to be spiteful and take Sin Cara, for Raw with the next pick. Basically, just so SmackDown can't get the Lucha Dragons, and she's gonna try to rub it in their face a little bit, with the real thinking behind it just being this is the way to split up the Lucha Dragons, so Kalisto can go ahead and get his push, so they can really try to make him the next Rey Mysterio. And then SmackDown, that same pick, will take the Big Show. Big Show, it seems he's just still hanging around, still middle of the card, still a veteran presence. With split rosters, I feel SmackDown can do much more with the Big Show and use him a lot better than WWE is using him right now. 18, Raw goes ahead and picks Sheamus. For some reason, he's still a bigger name to them. They feel he's still got something. So they will pick Sheamus to be a bit of a workhorse for them. SmackDown goes for the really, really big shocker. They come out and they go, well, I bet you didn't know this person was eligible because SmackDown's taking Brock Lesnar in round 18. Big shock. Steph doesn't know what to do. She doesn't believe he could draft Lesnar because Lesnar's so part-time. But Brock Lesnar to SmackDown. 19, Raw takes Hideo Itami. Now, to me, this is the person you add to the Bullet Club. If you don't go out and get Okada, or you don't go out and get anybody else who is associated with the Bullet Club, you get Hideo Itami. You go ahead and throw Hideo Itami with Finn Balor, Gallows, and Anderson. And it just makes sense that Itami would partner with Balor because of their history in NXT, how close they were there, plus the Japan links. It just all goes together. Hideo Itami going to Raw to join Balor, Gallows, and Anderson. SmackDown, to counter that, takes the NXT champion Samoa Joe. Again, trying to make bigger picks, trying to draw some star power and future longevity to SmackDown. They go ahead and take Joe. Joe's still got the title. He probably won't drop it to anybody directly, but as he goes up to SmackDown, he will probably be asked to relinquish the title or something, which they can have a big tournament for the title, in which somebody can really get a good push through it. Typically, I'd say have a guy like Austin Aries win it, but again, Austin Aries would be getting called up through the draft with this. I'd like to see a guy like Ty Dillinger walk out with it, to be honest. You can really build a megastar out of that guy. He's already very, very over with the crowd. You can catapult him to the levels he should be at by really giving him a solid push. Or you can even send Tyler Breeze back down and have him win the tournament and run with the NXT title for a while, because he never got an NXT championship run, and I always felt he deserved one for his work in NXT. Go back down there, maybe revitalize his career a bit, come back up to the main roster with some more much needed momentum, because his momentum died as soon as he hit the main roster. And the 20th pick, the last pick, Raw again trying to make a big pick, is taking the NXT Women's Champion, Asuka, to really solidify their women's division. Now, I know the NXT roster getting a little bit slaughtered here, but Triple H said he's got like 60 people down in the Performance Center to bring up to fill holes in the NXT roster. There's a lot of stars in the waiting down there. There's a lot of really talented guys that still just haven't hit the NXT screen yet, simply because there's already so much talent. This would be a great way to thin it out a bit, give more people more opportunities, allow them to go out and make more bigger signings. I mean, maybe this is the way we see WWE sign like an Adam Cole or something. SmackDown, with the 20th pick, takes the returning, and I hope they leave him off TV until this, they will take the returning Bray Wyatt. Now, to me, this will be the last televised pick. Much like the first ever draft, there were 20 picks on television. The rest were subsequent on WWE.com. I feel the rest of them, you could do a subsequent, maybe WWE Network special, where you show like a bunch of just rapid fire picks, guys going from one brand to another. There's a lot of crossover that can be done. You can build a lot of things for WrestleMania matches and make them mean more if it's cross promotion. AJ Styles and John Cena can continue their feuding over the world title, or SmackDown's world title. Dean Ambrose can easily be back in that mix. This also makes a much more realistic situation for Dean Ambrose to be a world champion, like he should be. He very well should be. This would open doors for Sami Zayn to really break through the glass ceiling, become underdog champion, which I think if you're going to have a next Rey Mysterio, I don't think having a next Rey Mysterio means having a Mexican superstar. It's more having that underground champion. And I feel Sami Zayn really fills that role a lot better than almost anybody else on the roster today. Cesaro can finally get the push he deserves. When he gets drafted to SmackDown, you can have Steph say something like, well, I don't care, my dad doesn't like him anyway, I don't like him anyway, he's not going to get over, he's never going to be a real star. And then have him go to SmackDown and just become like a mega star and put it in their face. Well, alright, that's my first 20 picks. Let me know what you guys thought. If you'd like to hear me do any subsequent picks or any sort of fantasy booking from there forward, like the first few pay-per-views, how they'd set up the storylines, immediate title rivalries, let me know. Go ahead and throw it down below. I'll go ahead and I will likely be writing articles for BreakingWrestlingNews.com later, more elaborating on my draft predictions and how I feel they should book the draft, because this is a really big opportunity for WWE. This is a really big opportunity to shake up the product and really revitalize things. If you'd like to hear more, again, throw it down in the comment section below. I'd like to hear your feedback, your thoughts. You guys looking forward to the draft? You pretty excited? Do you think SmackDown will be saved by this? I feel it will, personally. And what are you excited about with the draft? Where do you think people are going yourselves? And what kind of matchups are you looking forward to? What kind of veterans do you think they're bringing back in? I mean, there's been talks of Carlito, there's been talks of MVP, there's been talks of, you know, Mr. Kennedy. Yeah, there's lots of rumors, and it's up to you, I guess, to determine fact from hype. All right, well, thanks you guys. Until next time, too sweet.